You know, I meant to get to this next story earlier in the week. I didn't have time. I still want to talk about it because it goes to one of the great, I don't know if it's an irony, but one of the great elements of disgust from the modern MAGA right. I have never seen Marjorie Taylor Greene self-humiliate herself the way she did over the 4th of July holiday. The New Republic has a nice article about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene roasted after flunking basic history lesson. Marjorie Taylor Greene put out a tweet on Twitter, or we might call it an excretion on X, where she said, the average age of the signers of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776 was 44 years old, but more than a dozen were 35 or younger. And she goes on to list, Thomas Jefferson was 33 at the time. John Hancock was 39. James Madison was only 25. Alexander Hamilton was 21. James Monroe was 18. Aaron Burr was 20. Paul Revere was 41. George Washington was only 44. Of course, the problem with this tweet from the monopolizer of patriotism is that James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, James Monroe, Aaron Burr, Paul Revere, George Washington weren't signers of the Declaration of Independence. They were not signers. You know, while you're at it, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was a mere boy of 12 when he signed the Constitution. Now, listen, there's a really serious story here. It's not just that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a moron, which of course is true and is part of the story. If Marjorie Taylor Greene did not have citizenship by birth, she would fail the citizenship test that legal immigrants have to pass to become citizens. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. And so what is the point of mentioning that? Well, there's a few different points. Number one, the modern MAGA right is built on certain false pretenses and failed principles. And one of those principles is that we should be naturally charitable to American-born citizens, and we should have a natural skepticism about the patriotism, intelligence, and value of naturalized citizens, mere permanent residents, certainly undocumented immigrants, etc. But Marjorie Taylor Greene herself contradicts and undercuts that notion that the MAGA right pushes. But then there's an even bigger story that I think is worth mentioning as well, which is that for as long as I've been following and covering American politics to any degree, and this goes back before I did a show when I was a mere boy and was following and against the war in Iraq carried out by George W. Bush. The Republican Party often lays claim unilaterally to patriotism, to an attachment, connection, or reverence for the founding fathers, the founding documents, the good old way things used to be, or whatever the case may be. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, as if we needed yet another reminder, does remind us that it's all a house of cards. While they claim to be the ones who really respect and understand the foundation on which this country was built, better than anybody else, they will tell you, but certainly better than all the groups I mentioned, naturalized citizens, permanent residents, undocumented immigrants, but better than left-wingers, better than progressives, better than Democrats, better than college professors, better than whoever. And it goes once again to here is what they like to say they are about, and here is the reality once it's tested or once their principles become inconvenient, whether it's low regulation and business freedom, which they stand for, until it's inconvenient to the politics they are trying to push. So listen, Marjorie Taylor Greene reminding us of something we should all know. I don't think she could pass the citizenship test at all. I don't think there's any chance that she could. And she humiliates herself over the 4th of July weekend. And as far as I checked this morning, she still hasn't even taken this post down, which fortunately even on X has a community note saying, hey, she's listing people as signers of the Constitution who did not actually sign the Constitution. Pathetic, but not surprising. Marjorie Taylor Greene has no business. I don't want to insult any profession. You know, sometimes people go, I wouldn't even trust her to walk my dog. But there's nothing wrong with being a skilled dog walker. Like, I don't want to insult dog walkers. You know, people use those types of phrases. let me put it this way. Not only should Marjorie Taylor Greene not be making decisions for small groups of people in any kind of menial job you could imagine, she certainly shouldn't be involved in any decision making for the country as an elected member of the House of Representatives. She'll probably get reelected in November, but maybe we can give her the boot in 2026.